Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is courting the Arab vote after numerous controversial campaigns that saw the premier accused of demonizing the country's Arab minority. As part of his new campaign, Netanyahu visited Nazareth today with the mayor's support as anti-Netanyahu protests were taking place in the city ahead of his arrival. Here's Netanyahu speaking in Nazareth earlier today.
I believe that the Arab citizens of Israel must be a full and equal part of Israeli society. I am proud of the doctors and nurses in the Arab society who serve in all the hospitals in the country. We'll never forget their dedicated care of our dear parents on their deathbeds. We will never forget that. And to the Arab doctors and nurses who fight against the coronavirus, alongside their Jewish counterparts, I want to tell you on behalf of all citizens of Israel, you are an integral part of the angels in white who help us all beat the coronavirus. I am proud of the engineers, teachers, entrepreneurs and businessmen of Arab society. I want to see you all continue to integrate into all parts of Israeli society to fully participate in the great success story that is called the State of Israel. This is an opportunity to start a new era for all of us. This is an opportunity to begin a new era in relations between Jews and Arabs and the Arab citizens of the State of Israel. An age of honor, an age of equality, an age of personal security, an age of prosperity, an age of opportunities, an age of power. Anyone who claims that we only thought of the Arab public before the election is either lying or does not know the facts. Because much earlier, 4 years ago, I passed the decision to invest a huge sum of 15 billion shekels in the Arab society and in Arab localities to invest in infrastructure, in education, in welfare. These days, we're preparing another plan for another 5 years. This is more than what all Israeli governments have invested together in all the years of the state. We did this years ago and will continue to do so. But first, we need to do something else. We work to ensure your personal safety. The demonstrations of the joint list are a sign of despair. They have a reason to despair. They too see the growing support for me and the Likud in the Arab society. It excites me very much. I'm excited to see the huge change that is taking place in the Arab society towards me and towards the Likud under my leadership. The Arab citizens of Israel, you joined the Likud because you want to finally join the ruling party. For a party with achievements that has strong leadership and willpower to bring together with you and for you a future of integration, of prosperity, of security. We will do it together.
Live in Nazareth now, I'm joined by our diplomatic correspondent, Eli Hochenberg. And Eli, we just heard the Prime Minister announcing a new era of relations between Arabs and Jews. Of course, that comes after 3 campaigns where the Arab minority in Israel felt ostracized by the campaign from the Likud. And you spent the day there in Nazareth speaking to some supporters, some opponents of the Prime Minister to get the full view.
Right, Ayman. So before we dive into what unfolded earlier in the day in this very tense and violent demonstration amidst Netanyahu's visit in the city, we need to take it all, as you've said, in a political context. And Netanyahu's ruse after the Arab sector and the Arab vote comes against the backdrop of the persistent crumbling of the joint list of Arab parties. And as far as the lawmakers of this party are concerned, they're essentially trying to fight to maintain their support in the Arab street. We spoke to 2 of them, again, 2 leaders from the joint list of Arab parties who were at this protest today. Let's take a quick listen.
Instead of getting here in order to secure Mr. Netanyahu, let them secure us first. This is their duty. Look at the brutality. Look how they are oppressing the demonstration. We will never let them do that in Nazareth. Mr. Netanyahu, you are not welcome. Persona non grata in Nazareth, from the people of Nazareth and not from anybody else.
Netanyahu has no voters in Nazareth. He's a persona non grata in the city. He's the father of incitement, of racism, of discrimination, of hostility. We do not want him to come to Nazareth. That's very simple.
Now, as far as the people of Nazareth themselves, Ayman, I can tell you that while we were walking around with the camera around town today, people from the cars yelled at us that they will support Benjamin Netanyahu. But obviously, naturally, those who were at, again, this extremely tense and violent demonstration today do not want to see Netanyahu not coming to their city and not getting elected, especially not with the support of the Arab citizens of the country. Let's take a listen to some of the protesters we spoke with earlier in the day.
Today, we are protesting against Netanyahu and the right-wing government that oppresses the Palestinian people, oppresses the Arab citizens, deprives us of our land. We come to say that Bibi is a murderer who has no place in Nazareth. This is a place of the dead killed in 2000, not for the killer Bibi. The Arabs will not vote for Netanyahu because Netanyahu is the symbol of the oppression of the Arabs. He's the symbol of the right-wing governments that oppress us. We tell all people not to join Netanyahu because Netanyahu stinks and everyone who joins him will be just like him.
I want to tell Bibi to go home. You killed us. You killed people. That's enough. What does he want? Wars? I tell him from here, from Nazareth, no one will accept him. He better go home. Who will vote for him? Everyone knows who he is.
Now, we've seen a very interesting scene, Ayman, as anti-Netanyahu demonstrators from different movements, usually protesting outside of his official residence in Jerusalem, joining this protest today. We're talking about mostly Jewish demonstrators. And there were some, I wouldn't say clashes, but definitely some confrontation between them and the local demonstrators, as the locals here did not want them to wave the Israeli flags. But again, anti-Netanyahu protesters are saying anyone who's against Netanyahu is welcome to join our club. Let's take a listen to one of the, again, Jewish protesters who were at this demonstration today.
We're from the protest movement. We have come here to greet the accused, who is not wanted anymore. There are those who did not like the Israeli flags we carried. We came to demonstrate against Bibi. We do not want Bibi. There is room for anyone who does not like Bibi.
Eli, you mentioned the crumbling nature of the joint list at this time in this election cycle. Is there any indication right now that can tell us how much Netanyahu's campaign with the Arab society is working in his favor?
Well, I think it is too early to determine exactly how successful this campaign would be, but there's definitely a momentum in this respect, and Netanyahu and his team are estimating that around 2 seats can move again from the joint Arab list to the joint list of Arab parties, that is, to Netanyahu's Likud party. Meanwhile, it is very safe to assume that the leaders of the joint list will try to do whatever they can to, again, maintain their own electoral base that consists of different parties with many disagreements on a wide range of topics, obviously meeting somewhat of mounting frustration among their electoral base when it comes to more internal Arab sector issues such as the high rates of crime, etc. So they will too, of course, will try to counter the Netanyahu campaign vis-a-vis the Arab public. But definitely, you mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that Netanyahu not so long ago campaigned against them. Now he's campaigning for them to join him. Politics, very interesting game, I guess.
Our Eli Hochenberg, excellent reporting in Nazareth. Thank you, Eli.